right, so the last time we talked about parallelograms. Hi, Zach. We talked about parallelograms. Let's review what parallelograms are. Remember, when we have a parallelogram, we have a quadrilateral where the opposite sides are congruent and the opposite sides are also parallel. We know that opposite angles are congruent, and when the angles are next to each other, which means that they're consecutive, then they are supplementary. Again, which means that they are, when you add them together, they're equal to 180 degrees. Our diagonals bisect each other, which means that when we have this line here bisected by this one, then that means this side is going to be congruent to this side. And the same thing for this side is congruent to this side. Then we also talked about rectangles. Now with rectangles, we have the same properties as a parallelogram, but what's special or what distinguishes a rectangle is that all angles are 90 degrees. So it's exactly the same as a parallelogram, but it also has where all angles are 90 degrees. The diagonals, not only do they bisect each other, but they all end up being congruent. Questions so far? So those are the two things that distinguish a rectangle from just a regular parallelogram. All right, now let's look at squares and rhombuses. So again, we're going to be using the properties of special parallelograms to find the measurements of squares and rhombuses. We're going to start with squares. Here, make sure you give it back to me, please. Have opposite sides are parallel. So those are parallel, and these opposite sides are parallel. And they're also congruent. But what's special about these sides is that they're all congruent to each other. So your sides are all congruent. All sides are congruent. So that's one thing that distinguishes squares from regular parallelograms. Now, just like parallelograms, our angles, when they're next to each other, they're consecutive. That means that they're supplementary. So if I got this angle plus this angle, 180. If I got this angle plus this angle, they're equal to 180. If I got this angle plus this angle, they're equal to 180. But what's special about a square is the same thing that's special about a rectangle. All vertex angles are 90 degrees. So this is 90 degrees, this is 90 degrees, 90 degrees, and 90 degrees. All right, now we're going to draw our diagonals. Yay. There's a paper right there, sweetheart. At the door. And then we're going to draw this diagonal. And just like rectangles, not only do these diagonals bisect each other, they're all congruent to each other. We're going to use two tick marks to distinguish them from the sides. Now, this is another thing that makes squares completely different from parallelograms and rectangles. Your diagonals bisect the opposite angle. So this angle will be congruent to this one. This angle is congruent to this angle. This angle is congruent to that one. And this one is congruent to that one. So diagonals bisect opposite angles. Now, if we have a 90-degree angle in each vertex and that diagonal is bisecting it, what does that mean about each angle? What are they going to equal? So if this is 90 degrees and it is being bisected, remember bisect means that it's equal on both ends. So what is the degree measure going to be for each angle created from the diagonals? They're 45 degrees. This is 45, this is 45. So angles bisected are 45 degrees each. And another cool thing about squares is that they bisect at 90 degrees. So diagonals bisect at 90 degrees. So this is 90 degrees, that's 90 degrees. Any question? All right, let's go ahead and go off to an example. Let's draw a square. And diagonal. All right. What angle measures do we know about this square? Let's call it square ABC. What are the angle measurements that we know from this square? I'm sorry? I can't hear you. Each angle measure, it's 45 degrees. All of them? All of them. Which numbers are 45? Because notice how there's an angle. This is angle 1. This is 2, 3. All right. So angle 2 is 45 degrees. Angle 3 is 45. Angle 4 is 45. So when we have a square, those angles created by that bisector create 45-degree angles. What's the measurement of angle 1? So if we look at our notes, diagonals bisect at how many degrees? 90 degrees. So then angle 1 is how many degrees? Any questions? Okay, let's move on to another example. We have square ABCD and their diagonals are intersecting at point S. Okay, so first we're going to find the measurement of DSC. Remember when we look at angles, we start at D, the first one that's written, and then we go to S, and then we go to C. So we're looking at this angle right here. What's the measurement of that angle? If this is a square, our diagonals bisect at how many degrees? 90 degrees. So angle DSC is equal to 90 degrees. Now let's look for the measurement of angle ABC. So we start at A, go to B, and end at C. So we're looking at this angle right here. If this is a square, what's the measurement of angle ABC? This angle right here. It's also 90 degrees. So what if I said that AB is equal to 8, then DC is equal to what? So we've got AB is 8. So then what is DC? It's 8 as well. Okay, now we have DS is equal to 2, then DB is equal to what? So DS, this segment here is 2, and we want to know DB. So what is DB? 4. How did we get 4? Times 2, because these two are congruent. Perfect. And now let's find the perimeter. Do you guys remember what perimeter means? Go back to 8th grade, huh? Yeah, all the way around. We're going to find the lengths, or we're going to add the lengths of around the square. So if this is 8, this is 8. If it's a square, then that means all of them are 8. So for my perimeter, we're going to add 8 how many times? 4. So either we can do 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, or we can do 8 times 4, and that gives us 32. Questions so far? All right, let's move on to the next example. Again, we have square ABCD. And their diagonals intersect at E. They're giving us the measurement of angle AED is 5x plus 5, and we need to find out what x is. So we have A, then we go to E, and then we go to D. So we're looking at this angle right here. What's the measurement of that angle again, if this is a square? 90 degrees. So this angle measure is 90 degrees, and it's equal to 5x plus 5. And we solve for x. And again, if you still have trouble solving for x, please be sure to attend tutoring so we can help you with that. And x is equal to 17.